Everybody has a comfort series. It can be a wholesome slice of life series, it can be a gritty, violent horror movie series. It doesn't matter. Whatever series that you can head back to and always have a good time, I think you can consider a comfort series. As for me, in case it wasn't obvious enough, I love the Plants vs. Zombies series. Heck, I centered this whole channel around it. Even if it was mostly on the shooter series, I love every installment of the series, except for that one. The goofy designs for characters and maps and abilities, the batshit insane lore, and the, hit or miss fandom. There are series that I probably like more than PvZ, but PvZ has always been the series that's been the most personal to me. It might actually be the first ever game that I ever completed. Either that or Sonic 2. Once I finished PvZ 1 all those years ago, I never stopped from there. I played every game that came out, on repeat for that matter, dumped hundreds of hours into the shooters, and all around just had a great time with this series. In fact, my opinions mostly match with the community about these games. PvZ 1, the one that started it all, arguably the cleanest designed game of the series. Even if for personal reasons I don't quite like this as much as its follow-ups, I can admit that this is probably the best designed game as a whole throughout this series. PvZ 2. Used to be really hated, but ever since the community realized that yes, you don't actually need microtransactions to beat the whole game, I've seen a lot of approval for this game, which makes me really happy. It's one of my favorites of the series, even if technically it's kind of just a sloppier made PvZ 2 with a lot more content, but that content being just less designed well overall. Garden Warfare 1, a pretty solid start to the shooter series. While it does have some issues on account of being the first installment of a series, it would gradually fine-tune its issues. It's still a more than enjoyable game on its own. Garden Warfare 2. This honestly might take my pick for the best game in the series. Everybody loves it. In fact, it was my favorite for a while. PvZ Heroes. A nice little side game that you may love or you may just be indifferent upon. As for me, I'm in the middle. PvZ 3. You know, despite the really awful marketing and this game's content getting cut really early on, I honestly really like this game, and I'm really interested to see what the community has to say about it. Oh. Well, if you by any chance are uninformed, this game is a little mixed, to put it lightly. And by mixed, I mean it more so kind of just split the fandom in half, Star Wars sequel style. It would be easy for me to just go on a tangent about why this game sucks and why it's poorly designed and why it ruined the franchise. In fact, if it weren't for this game, and we just gotten a traditional Garden Warfare 3 with more of the elements from its predecessor carried on, we probably would have seen more Garden Warfare content in the future. But despite all of this, I love this game. And trust me, I hate to be the contrarian and go, am I the only one who... No, you are not the only one. You are never the only one, you stupid idiot. In fact, I've seen a decent amount of praise for BFN, especially in more recent times. But for me, personally, it might honestly be my favorite in the series. And yes, I'm specifying it here. Favorite, not best. On a technical level, I honestly think Garden Warfare 2 is a bit better and just well-designed overall. If I had to put these games in a tier list, it would look somewhere like this. BFN can go above or below PvZ 2 depending on my mood, and PvZ Heroes honestly can kind of just go anywhere. I'll cut this into about 5 different parts, discussing how well I think BFN does in each of these qualities in comparison to Garden Warfare 1 and 2. And again, I can't stress this enough, this is all my own personal opinion, and what vibes with me will obviously be different from what vibes with you. Aesthetics. Stuff like art style, quality of life changes, really anything that doesn't fit into the other qualities. PvP. The different modes and maps and general mechanics related to PvP. Basically anything related to PvP that we haven't discussed before or we won't discuss later. PvE. All the modes where you aren't actually fighting against other players. So this would include story mode and ops. I'll also discuss pots and bots here since they're related. Characters. How fun, well-designed, and balanced the new and old characters are in this game. And finally, upgrades. The upgrades mechanic, and how I think they compare to variants, and the quality of them overall. Both this game and this franchise mean so much to me. This series kinda ended up growing up with me, and as I grew older, the series continued to change and develop. Just like me. There is a lot to cover with this game, so I won't waste your time anymore. This is why Battle for Neighborville is my favorite PvZ shooter. Let's start off with the thing that I think most people will agree on with this game. The aesthetics. Beginning with its art style, I personally really love BFN's art style. The cartoony aesthetic going with it, I honestly prefer a lot more than the Garden Warfare game's more realistic type aesthetic, especially Garden Warfare 2's, which kind of looks muddied and really purple when looking at it for a while. The actual environments here are really pretty to look at, and I love how colorful everything is. This might just be the most colorful PvZ shooter of them all. The character designs in this game are mostly hits, but they occasionally have their misses. But then you got plants like Snapdragon, who just looks like a giant puppy, and I just want to pet him. I love how exaggerated the Plants and Zombies proportions are. All-Star just towers over the rest of the zombies, even more than he did in the last games. I love how P-Shooter looks a bit bigger in this game than how he did in the Garden Warfare games. I headcanon he got a growth spurt between the times of the Garden Warfare games and this one. And I like a lot of the new design elements everyone has, like Scientist's big-ass goggles. One thing I think this game really deserves more credit for is the quality of life changes. For one, oh my gosh, actual communication in these games! Gone are the days of vaguely jumping and doing gestures to hope and pray your teammates can actually understand you. Now you can just actually send messages to let them know. Send messages telling strategies for your teammates, or just telling them to hang around. I honestly think this might be the most underrated aspect of this game, aside from something else that we'll get into later, that I really wish people didn't underappreciate more. There's a ton more quality of life changes in this game that I just can't list all of them. Health bars are really nice, you actually see the icons of your teammates and not the enemy players, which I never really got was a thing. Reviving is not only easier, but is also a bit more balanced. Without additional upgrades, Sunflowers and Scientists can't just bunny hop while reviving someone to get a free revive. They actually need to commit to it, because I think that was just a little bit annoying to deal with. But multiple teammates reviving the same teammate at the same time will very quickly revive them, and all of you will get the XP for it. Customization are at their best here. No longer do you have to wear very vague aesthetics to kind of fit a theme. There are outright skins in this game. You can even mix and match these skins to form all types of combinations. Some of my favorite customizations in this game include the P of Valiance, Molten Snapdragon, this Foot Soldier skin, this really cute kitty nightcap, this Acorn skin that reminds me of Jotaro, Team Wolfie, and basically all of Wizard skins. I could talk all day about this game's customizations, but this video is long enough as is, so let's just move on. Here's another underrated part of this game that you probably didn't even think of. That damn hit sound. In my opinion, sound design is the single most underrated part of game design, and it can really break or make a game. Satisfying sound design is especially important for games like shooters or fighting games, where combat is the bread and butter of gameplay, so you want that combat to feel satisfying. You want to feel rewarded for performing well. And my gosh, do I feel rewarded. The damage sound works so well in tandem with the vanquish sound. Hearing the pops gradually build up until that satisfying ding not only is just fun to listen to, but also subtly tells you how much health your target has left and how much damage you've been dealing with them. A really satisfying way to show both information and satisfaction with your sound design. So I've been singing the praises for this game's aesthetics for a while now, but it's not all good. One of the issues that I have with this game, and trust me, I have a lot of issues with this game, are the currencies in which you use to spend them on. The lack of both variants and minions to spawn in during game from actual collectibles that you end up collecting means that coins feel honestly kinda useless in this game. Once you spend up the Rewardatron, there isn't really much left you can spend your coins on. Rux is a scheming bastard as usual, but we also have battle passes in this game. My favorite! If you ever wanted to get something unique from the battle pass, like a skin or a character or a legendary upgrade, and the month that happened with it is already passed, well too bad bitch, have fun waiting another year. Despite my love for this game, this is definitely the shooter that feels the most sanitized, to be honest. Stuff like battle passes, changing out variants for upgrades, and changing to a more Overwatch-styled team shooter with more focus on teamwork, rather than the more solo-based TF2 style that the original shooters had, does make this game feel a bit sanitized or more corporate. Despite me liking a number of these changes, I have to admit that they likely weren't made out of any kind of innovation and just trying to hitch on the popularity of stuff at the time. There are a few more things that I could go over, but honestly, I really like BFN's aesthetics. It provides a lot of nice quality of life changes, as well as genuine great changes over the previous games, although a few detracting things from it. With that said, let's move on to Battle for Neighborville's PvP system, I have a lot of good things to say about and a lot of bad things to say about. One immediate and very important difference between these games that I don't think a lot of people keep in mind is the difference in movement. Garden Warfare characters feel a bit more stocky, for lack of a better term. The base movement speed of each games are roughly even from what I've seen. A bigger difference is jump height. Battle for Neighborville characters feel a lot more floaty, to be honest. And honestly, it can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on my mood. It gives characters more options for traversal, but as we'll get into later, there isn't much traversal in this game that you can do within the maps. But I'll get into that a little later. Alright, this is the first of many band-aids that'll be ripped off in this video, but I think sprinting is a fine mechanic.
You what?
Battle for Neighborville's combat is generally more fast-paced than the previous shooters, at least in regards to turf maps. I get people running away is an issue that some people have, but honestly, I never really shared it. Whenever someone was running away from me and I didn't manage to shoot them while they were running away, it always felt like a me problem rather than a problem with the game itself. Like, not only are they going to presumably already be low on health since they're running away in the first place, they literally aren't fighting back against you, you're free to just gun them down. Not to mention the masses and masses and masses of abilities that just let you counter whatever they're doing and stop them from running away. Gravity Grenade, Casting Shadows, Funky Bouncer, Peach, Bullhorn Swarm. Hell, Wizard has a built-in ability that stops people from sprinting. Of course, there were some times where people did run away from me and I did get frustrated, but it always felt like an issue with me not actually clutching up and not hitting my shots correctly. I like sprinting for just giving us some more mobility for characters who are slower and might not be able to traverse the map quicker. Plus, each character has their own fun animations for sprinting that I think adds to the charm a lot. Pea-Shooter runs like Sonic the Hedgehog, Foot Soldier just lets his backpack rocket launcher thing drag him in the air while it's flying. Wizard flies on his broom. Cactus and Kernel Corn just run while flailing their arms back. Aside from Pea-Shooter, I think my favorite animation might be Super Brains. The way he just reaches his arms out forward while running in the position that Superman would be with flying, but he can't, so he just runs on foot is really funny to me. It is worth noting that BFN doesn't have the movement tech through jumping that the previous games did have, which will lead to a lot of really fun moments like bean jumping with Pea-Shooter. But since these obviously weren't intended, I'm not honestly sure if I should consider this an advantage or a disadvantage. I'll just leave it on neutral, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't count Battle for Neighborville having less hackers compared to the Garden Warfare games on PC as an advantage for that either. It's very obviously not intended. And for as fun as Garden Warfare 2's movement tech can be, it can lead to some, frankly, bullshit moments. An actual problem that I have with Battle for Neighborville is the amount of game modes given to the player. The Garden Warfare has had a very wide variety of selection for modes, as well as mixed mode, which allows you to get everything all at once. BFN, on the other hand, really just has Turf and Team Vanquish, which can get pretty stale compared to the Garden Warfare, which had a lot more options you could play through the game's mixed mode system. Hell, Nintendo Switch users don't even get Team Vanquish, they just get Turf. BFN also has Ops, which sucks ass in this game, but we'll get there when we get there. Map design is another aspect of BFN that I don't get to see brought up too often, but I honestly think is a big problem with it, and I do think it's a disadvantage it has compared to the Garden Warfares. The Garden Warfare games have maps that were specifically designed to fit either Turf Takeover or one of the different modes. Because of this, the Garden Warfare games can actually get modes that fit the maps that they have in. Garden Warfare 2, and especially Garden Warfare 1, have very big, widespread Turf Takeover maps that give a lot of space and room for you to play in. Likely because of how rushed the damn thing was, BFN doesn't have any maps that are designed specifically to fit in either mode. Almost every map in this game comes from the story mode, which means that the maps in them don't really get to fit the modes that they're actually placed in. Maps in BFN feel a lot more cramped, with less alternating paths to go in. Because of that, it's very easy for the defenders to just spam out the attackers on a lot of turf maps. The first point and turning point is especially bad in this regard. I mean, what the hell is the plant supposed to do in this spot? No joke, I've gotten over 40 kills on a single turf spot because of this damn camping spot, because of how easy it is to just spam out the plants from this one spot. I don't have the clip of it, but if you play BFN, you can know, and you'll tell that every single time I'm playing on this map, there's always this one engineer spamming projectiles in one spot. Oh, would you stop that? Good riddance. Other than that, and what I'm about to get into in a minute, there's not much else I can say about Battle for Neighborville's combat system that I can't say about the Garden Warfare games. Overall, it's just very fun to be in for the most part, and aside from the differences with characters and variants, I don't really see much reason to dislike it compared to the Garden Warfare games. Oh, but there's one more thing. This damn overtime! Okay, this is more of a side grade than a direct downgrade to the Garden Warfare's overtime system, but man, Battle for Neighborville's overtime can just get really generous. Like, it's been so bad before, I'm pretty sure I've had times where the attackers would still be able to full get it via the overtime, despite not even having a third of the objective filled. Again, this is both a disadvantage and an advantage for BFN because I felt like the Garden Warfare games could be a bit more lenient to the attackers, as I feel like sometimes it's barely even a factor, but man, I think Battle for Neighborville can also be a bit too generous in giving the attackers an advantage. At the very least, the music's a bop, and it really lets you know that when overtime starts, all things are going down.
Quick, really, Nick! Can't you hear the music? Let the 4-4 spring off the auto in D minor! Every sailor knows it means that! We're living before it's too late! Hurry, SpongeBob, the music gets faster!
To wrap up BFN's combat system, there's the more philosophical, design-worthy, I don't know, I guess more technical-based question of, do I think the design aspect of focusing more on teamwork and that regard, compared to the more solo-based gameplay style of the Garden Warfare games, is really an upgrade or a downgrade to each other? And to that I say, At the end of the day, I really just think it depends on personal preference above everything else. And yeah, you could really say that I'll borderline everything else with this discussion, but I honestly think it applies here more than anything else. Some days I want to just hang it solo and be by myself, and I'll play the Garden Warfare games when I feel like that. On the flip side, if I want to play a more teamwork-based game where I feel like almost every character in the game can really contribute to the team, I'd play BFN. Whether or not Battle for Neighborville actually succeeded in making a more teamwork-focused game, I'll get into when we get into the characters and upgrades section. But as for just the design choice of focusing on more teamwork-focused gameplay, I actually think it's a good one. Especially since the Garden Warfare games have had a tendency to try to focus on making teamwork-based class, like scientists or rows, and doing a bit of a poor job in that regard because they either toned up their offensive potential too much or they didn't give them enough supportive potential. Change is good, and I think moving in this direction was a pretty logical decision for the future of these games. Overall, Battle for Neighborville's combat system has a lot of issues to it, but also has a lot of really good things about it, and I find it a pretty comfortable side grade compared to the previous games. But PvP is just one side of the coin of a shooter like this. Let's move on to... The Plants vs. Zombies series started out as a single-player tower defense game, so logically it makes sense for these Garden Warfare games to have their own PvE mode for the player to be using. Battle for Neighborville's modes split up into two main categories, story mode and ops. We'll get to that second thing later, but story mode I can actually say I confidently like a lot. The Garden Warfare games already had their own story mode with different quests to go on, and I quite liked it a lot. It felt a little stale due to only having quests and not really having much else in this regard, but they were all very fun and captured the humor and charm of the classic PvZ games very well. BFN's story mode feels like a massive step up from the already solid story mode of the Garden Warfare games. The quests in this game already keep their charm for the Garden Warfare games, and take it up to a whole nother level. The cutscenes are hilarious, I can't get enough of them. Basically every quest in this game carries that goofy charm that the PvZ series is known for. Some of my favorites include Baron Palooza, where you go out to go stop Baron Von Bats for plants, Brian Sport, where you have to go stop a bitter dill named Brian, and you stop him by roasting him? Will You Be My Posse, where you go out to go and recruit different plants for a posse and stop the Big Boy gang from to stop the Big Boy gang from breaking out of jail. But I think my favorite of the normal quests would be becoming one with the dumb. You enter your own zombie mind to become one with a dummy god, removing all knowledge from your mind so you can reach peak nothingness, all so you can find batteries that were lying inside your mind the entire time. That is a magical kind of stupid that only this franchise can pull off. In addition to the classic quests from the last game, there's also massive hub worlds for you to traverse in. Not only can you just move around and experience the world, you can also see the NPCs and engage in skirmishes within them. Progression is a lot less linear, with you having this massive hub world to explore in, and having a lot of different ways for paths and chests to go in, and it feels just a lot more interactive in the Garden Warfare game's story mode. The collectibles in the story mode is unmatched compared to the previous games. The aforementioned chests, which also come in golden variants, bounties, all the varying medals to collect, Each different campaign even has its own different collectible that you can use to exchange with coins and in their own shops. I like how each currency is themed around the map it's in. Tacos for Town Center, marshmallows for Rooting Woods, and sheriff badges for Mount Steep. As for the bosses, they were perfect. Perfect, down to the last minute detail. Instead of just reusing bosses for the previous campaigns like the last game did, each different campaign has its own different designated boss with its own different design, which I just love to death. My favorite among them being Major Problem. Aside from his name being a nice play on words between the minor problem enemies from the earlier campaign, but just let me recount everything that's happening right now. You are fighting a giant cheese robot in a lava cheese mountain that will erupt and destroy the entire town if you do not stop him right now. This is no laughing matter. You are not fighting to slap butter on a Zomboss statue or launch a flag into space. You are fighting to stop this lava cheese from destroying the town and everyone you love, as well as yourself from dying in boiling hot lava. Cheese and the puns. Oh my gosh, the puns! BFN's campaign is amazing. I love almost everything about it. And it really just goes to show how much they've progressed from the Garden Warfare games. From Garden Warfare 1 not having any campaign and only really having Garden Ops, which you could only even play on Plant's side, to Garden Warfare 2, which had some really fun quests that you could do on both Plant's and Zombies side, to Battle for Neighborville's very expansive campaign, and its phenomenal boss fights. I'd love to see an action-adventure PvZ game that takes the qualities of this story mode and expands them to an even further degree. So, I want you to keep in mind every single positive thing that I just said about this game's story mode for the past 4 minutes or so. Really let all those good things that I said sink into your mind. The fact that I'm a very passionate defender of this game and think it's a very good one overall. And that one of the few things that I've seen people who don't like this game have to say about it is at least the PvE is good. So when I tell you that I think that Garden Warfare 2's PvE is better than Battle for Neighborville's PvE, that should really sink in. What could possibly be the reason for that? Which lets me get to the moment that I've been saving up my lungs for a while. This ops is trash. I hate it with every fiber of my being. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with this game's ops. There is just so much lost content going in from Garden Warfare 2 to Battle for Neighborville's ops. I'll start off by saying yes, I am aware that this game had its ops features cut out and it was originally meant to be more expansive. I do not care. I am judging what it was given to me at the end of this game, and what was given to me sucks ass. Let's start off with the big point, the difficulty. The Garden Warfare games ops each had their own different difficulty that you could set and have a different good time with. Crazy Ops really does feel challenging. I have a fun time playing it. There is no difficulty setting for ops in this game. It is the same bog standard that is a snooze fest every time I play it. As if that wasn't enough, we've got a nasty two-piece coming up with a difficulty problem because lives aren't a thing in this game. Now you may be asking, why? Because you just spawn in after delay. You know, dying should be a problem in video games. Dying is the thing you're trying not to do. The Garden Warfare games understood this. If you died, you had to wait until either someone revives you or until the level's gone. Dying is inconsequential to this game. If you die, you just respawn a bit later. The only detriment for dying in this game is that you'll be unable to defend the garden or graveyard for a short time, which is a moot point when you have friends playing with you. In fact, I'd say the majority of the time that I'm playing ops, I have more than one person playing with me. So what is the point of dying? Even if you're playing solo for whatever reason, we get to get into another problem. There's only 5 waves in this mode. 10 is the perfect amount of waves for a game mode like ops. It allows you a very nice sense of progression as more and more enemies get to spawn in, and you'll have to deal with 2 bosses instead of 1. There were so many problems caused by having 5 ways instead of 10 ways, as God intended it to be. In addition to lowering the difficulty, which is already an issue by itself, it also means you'll be experiencing less special waves in this mode, and it will make the ops in this game feel just much more samey. Oh, and that's also a problem in itself. There's a lot less variety in the special waves in the Garden Warfare games, which is part of the reason why ops was so fun. With the variety of bosses and maps and different special waves, it really made it feel like every single ops was in its own different campaign, and it always felt unique. Every round of BFN's ops feels boring and just the same as the last one. There is one good thing about this game that I can say that it did better than the Garden Warfare games ops. One sole positive aspect that isn't just carried over from the previous games, and that's the bosses. The bosses here are pretty fun, they each have their own method of defeating them, and they're a bit more complex than the previous bosses. Ops in the Garden Warfare games was so much fun. It was my second favorite thing to do, aside from the direct PvP. The ops in this game is so bad that the difference between it and the Garden Warfare game's ops is bigger than the gap between this game's story mode and Garden Warfare 2's story mode. Which means that I gotta say that Garden Warfare 2's PvE is better than Battle for Neighborville's. So thank you, BFN. Thank you for giving me one of the most miserable experiences of the PvZ franchise as a whole. Thank you for not even having the common decency to have a single good render of your ops, like I found with the previous modes, that I could use in that hoodwink meme, so I've used this bog standard stock image.
Know your fucking place, trash!
This is one of two big issues that I have with Battle for Neighborville, and are, in my opinion, my biggest problems with this game. And I can't wait to tell you the other big problem when we get to that section. I can go further, I promise, about the issues with this game's ops, but I just want this segment to be over with. Let's finish off with this game's AIs. In terms of bosses, Battle for Neighborville I think is a solid step up from the last games. The amount of bosses in Battle for Neighborville on the Plants and Zombies side is even. Which is nice, since Garden Warfare 2 was a bit more lopsided, with the zombies having a lot more bosses than the plants. The spawnable minions, I'm mixed on. An immediate and big downgrade is that there are a lot less spawnable minions in this game than there are on the Garden Warfare games. However, I do prefer the mechanic of each minion having their own cooldown which they will be spawned in, rather than collecting them within sticker packs. Not only is this better for balancing, since one player on one team can't just spam outhouse zombies, which was getting really annoying in the Garden Warfare games, since they have a cooldown in this one. And while it's pretty fun to collect the different variants in the Garden Warfare games within that game's sticker packs, it's not really for this game's pots. Variants are their own characters, and you only unlock them once, rather than different minions which will just be endlessly collected without any kind of sense of dopamine as you collect them. Have you ever opened a sticker pack and genuinely thought, yippee, I got a bonk choy? Ooh, one more problem for Battle for Neighborville's ops, but the fact that there are less spawnable minions in this game and less enemies to deal with means that the enemies and allies are even more stale and repetitive than they already were in that game. BFN's ops cannot stop catching strays. I didn't expect myself to have this much to say about this game's PvE, so let's move on to the next category. Characters are, from what I've seen, the other big factor as to why people don't like this game as much as they do the previous games. As for me, personally, I honestly like the direction they handled the characters in this game. I'll start with the old Plants and Zombies, and then move on to the new Plants and Zombies. BFN designs his characters in two main ways from what I've seen. That being removing their annoying aspects from the last game to give them some more versatility that feels more fair, and making the characters who were designed to be support or teamwork-based characters in the last game actually feel like that. I'll get into how BFN handles these characters later in the video, but for now, I like to admire the amount of characters given in this game for the player to use. We've got a whopping 25 different characters in this game, 7 more than Garden Warfare 2's 18 characters, and over 3 times as many characters as Garden Warfare 1's, which only had 8. Okay, well, it also had boss mode, but nobody cares about boss mode, aside from that one really good trailer it had. This game has the most overall character classes in the series, and I really love how every character has their own role in the team. Yep, all 25 characters. Wait, 25 characters? That's an odd number. Why are there 25 characters in this game instead of an even number? I mean, that'd have to mean that there's an uneven amount of characters on each team. Popcat?
What?
Where's the 12th plant class?
Goes right there. See, I drew it with a magic marker.
You were supposed to add them in the game so there'd be an even number of plants and zombies on each team.
Dude, I'm gonna.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Then go at the 12th plant class.
Okay, I will. I see the problem.
Oh, do ya? This is the other big problem that I have with Battle for Neighborville, alongside its terrible ops. It should be pretty obvious why having one team that has more options than the other team in a class-based shooter is a bad idea. Imagine if you were playing TF2, and all of a sudden Graggle Simpson ended up getting added to the red team, while you on the blue team don't get jack shit. Imagine if you're playing Smash Bros, and Sakurai added another character, but only if you're having the second controller. So if you don't got that second controller, well, too bad, bitch, you got one less character to work with. The saddest thing about this is, like the ops mode, this problem would be completely negated by just giving the game some more time in the oven. Iceberg Lettuce was borderline completely finished. They had their model, their animation, their attack, their abilities, their upgrades, their sprinting animation, hell, the damn respawn animation was done! This honestly might infuriate me more than the ops change, because come on, man, we were right there! I'm not gonna go on as big as a rant as I did with the ops section, But do not let that fool you. This might even be even worse than the op situation. It's just more self-explanatory and doesn't need me to go on a whole rant to explain why it's bad. But with that out of the way, we can move on to the good parts of this game. For starters, I really like how they handled some of the returning characters in this game. Pea-shooter and Chomper might just be the best examples of this. Both of these characters had different abilities that made them really annoying to deal with in the previous games. However, in Chomper's regard, he wasn't a flat-out good class like Pea-shooter was. Instead, he's just very gimmicky and annoying, but not very good. Going into BFN, both of these characters didn't just get major design overhauls, they also got to tone down on their annoying aspects a lot. Chomper lost his ability to swallow zombies from behind, which I honestly think was a good thing. Chomper is already the best class up close for fighting. He doesn't really need an insta-kill that he can do at any time in order to win most fights. That frankly just gets annoying having to constantly deal with. Spikeweed functions much more like, well, an actual trap, and not like an instant fight winner, since Chomper lobs it instead of placing it on the ground, meaning you can't just put it under zombies to instantly surround them. Goop is also changed to deal massive damage, instead of just stunning zombies, which I prefer because there is actually countermeasures to it. If you get gooped in the Garden Warfare games, you're basically fucked. All you can really do is just shoot the Chomper and hope you can kill him before he reaches you in time. Burrow is mostly the same, but they did change it so you don't get mid-air burrowed anymore. Thank God. Finally, Chomper actually gets a ranged attack. Chomper finally has a reliable way to actually deal damage from afar. He still maintains his close quarters attitude and fighting style, but you can still use this as a last resort if zombies are running away from you. Pea-shooter had some horse shit in the last games. Hyper-provoked Pogo Peas, the bane of every Garden Warfare player's existence, and P-Gatling already deals enough damage. Having a damage reduction on top of that is carrying it a bit too far, especially when one of its main weaknesses is that it leaves Pea-shooter vulnerable while it's active. BFN changes Hyper to Pea-soup, which honestly has a bunch of changes that makes it much more easy to deal with, while still giving Pea-shooter a lot of options to work with in battle. Due to how pretty much every character has increased jump height, the jump boost Pea-shooter gets in this game isn't as noticeable as it is in the Garden Warfare games, since every character can jump much higher. Plus, the speed boost being slower means it's actually a lot easier to hit the Pea-shooter while Hyper is active, rather than it was in the Garden Warfare games. In exchange, Pea-soup increases Pea-shooter's rate of fire, increasing his time to kill, and giving him the ability to fly. P-Gatling, on the other hand, has lost the armor that it had in the Garden Warfare games, but in exchange, the cooldown of P-Gatling is only as much as the ammo you use while in it. With this, you have a lot more freedom to use P-Gatling. I honestly see it more like a secondary weapon than an ability in this game. They took two very annoying characters in the previous game, toned down their annoying factors, but gave them things that honestly might make them a bit better than how they were in the last games. I mean, Chomper for sure. All I really got to complain about is Chomper's hit detection. Like, seriously, what are you doing, Chomper? This toning down the annoying factors of the previous games is sort of a recurring theme I've noticed in Battle for Neighborville's game design. Sprinting's inclusion also gives basically every character an option to avoid abilities in the last games that would normally instantly kill them without much of a fight. Stuff like Burrow, Imp Punt, Husk Hop, abilities that would usually instantly kill you in the last games, you actually have the chance to properly avoid them if you have quick reaction times and can sprint out in fast enough. The one character I think got this taken a bit too far was Imp. Outside the mech, he feels kinda useless. Gravity Grenade is less annoying to deal with, since it doesn't disable your abilities, and it lasts longer, which I like, but they don't really give Imp much compensation for the lack of these abilities that he had in the last games. Z-Mech is the one exception, since you can actually die while in the state, and you get some armor on it, which I like, since I thought Z-Mechs died a bit too easily in the last games, especially just to one P-Gatling. Other than that, most solo-based characters honestly feel mostly the same, with some added bonuses to them that I like this overall. I do really like Cactus's old primary, but I do prefer her actually having a method of self-defense with her primary weapon, and a secondary weapon that allows her to have her more traditional sniper role. She also gets more potato mines, the ability to fly and reach high ground, which I prefer over the tall nuts, since I thought they were a bit useless in the last games, as well as a much more easy to control drone, with a shorter cooldown to boot. Super Brains' Turbo Twister lost its defensive abilities, but deals a lot more damage in exchange. SB also gets his own shield, a much more useful range attack, and his Hyper Jump Thumb, which I do prefer over the heroic kicks for their ability to pull plants in and deal more damage to them. Aside from Imp, I honestly prefer every single returning character in this game as there was the Garden Warfare games. Everyone just feels like they're less annoying to deal with more abilities and tweaks to them that makes them feel more fun to play as overall. Heading on over to the teamwork-based classes, I also really like how Battle for Neighborville handles them. Well, except Engineer, but we'll get to him. It took them 3 whole games to do it, but Scientist actually feels like a damn support character in this game. He can still do big damage, but due to his limited range and low health, It actually makes him pretty vulnerable, and scientists should be sticking with his team more often. It's like he has the option to defend himself when necessary, but the majority of the time he will be healing his teammates, which I think should be the intention with him. If you want to play a DPS scientist, there are upgrades let you do that just fine. That shouldn't be how the base character should be designed, because at the end of the day, he is a support class. Rose also got some changes to her that actually make her feel like a support class. She deals less damage, but in exchange, her Arcane Enigma is a more supportive role since it buffs the speed of nearby teammates. Plus, she has some abilities like Godify and Jinx, which feel more tailor-made to be supportive, especially Jinx. I mean, that's literally just a damage buff from a variant that was in the last game. Sunflower is fine. She deals less damage, she has more supportive capabilities. Not much else to say here. BFN also has All-Star and Citron, serving the role as tanks that you'd see in other shooters like Overwatch. Citron does his job well. While his damage does feel a little overtuned, his shield is very useful, and the fact that it can be brought up at any time really does make it feel like a defensive class. All-Star, on the other hand, doesn't really feel like that as much. He does have his dummy shield to defend the teammates, but the fact that it's going on cooldown and can only really be brought up very briefly really does make it feel like more like an afterthought for protecting his teammate. All-Star feels like a defense class, the same way Colonel Corn feels like a support class. While they both have abilities that can be used to help the team, primarily, you're usually just using them to deal damage. But for the most part, the teamwork-based characters in this game really do feel like teamwork-based characters. The support classes have limitations to their abilities that prevent them from just hogging their support abilities for themselves, and really do make them feel like support characters. You know, what the hell is that? Yeah, Engineer just kinda takes a big fat shit on the whole design aspects of making the support characters feels like support characters by limiting their offensive capabilities. Rose, Scientist, and Sunflower all felt like support characters because their abilities were designed around supporting their teammates. While they each have abilities that they can use to support themselves, their primary support abilities are only for the team. Engineer must have not gotten the memo because his greedy ass can just use his supportive abilities for himself. There isn't any incentive to support your teammate because all of your abilities can just support yourself. Overall, I do quite like Battle for Neighborville's approaches with the returning characters. There are a few blemishes, but for the most part, I like how the plants and zombies got their annoying abilities from the last game toned down a bit. In exchange, they got some more abilities to work with. Alright, we're nearly 40 minutes in this damn thing and I can finally talk about the new faces in this game. Like before, first I'll handle the solo-based classes, then I'll work into the more teamwork-based classes. Electric Light might be the most underrated character in this whole game, at least among the new characters. She does her job of dealing big damage to crowds of plants very well, without being too annoying for the most part. She ended up going from one of my least played zombies to one of my most played. The only real thing I could see much complaining about could be out of fight, but that's honestly not too bad, and if you do sprint, you can catch up to her before it wears off. Snapdragon is also really fun. His fire damage is toned down from the fire damage in the last game, since it can't actually kill you, but he can still do really big damage up close. He has some really powerful abilities, but they are very telegraphed, and you can dodge them if you see them coming. 80's Action Hero has some bullshit. He sort of has that Garden Warfare design of having some abilities that feel like they're impossible to dodge or really fight back against up close, but for the most part, he's pretty fun to play as. Nightcap. Oh, Nightcap. Nightcap might honestly be my favorite of the new plants introduced in this game. Beyond just having a really cute and cool design, I love how she plays. She has a lot of potential for damage, but her low health really makes her limited. Kung Fu can be devastating, but zombies do have the measures to deal with it, so you need to be prepared with it. Use Shadow Sneak to take it up close, and then use Casting Shadows to trap zombies, and then use Kung Fu. There's also another playstyle for Nightcap that really elevates her for me, but we'll get there when we get to the upgrade section. Nightcap grew on me a lot. She went from my least play to the new plants, to honestly my second favorite plant in the entire series. She's never beaten Pichuta though. Acorn and Space Cat are also pretty fun. In their normal states, they're not the strongest, but with their transformations, they can really put up a threat. I love the varying playstyles you can set up with them. You can focus on the Acorn and Space Cadet themselves, be a passenger to an Oak or a space station, play as the Oak or a space station, or use a loadout that fulfills a generous role and allows you to fulfill multiple categories. Wizard might be my favorite design support character in the series. His primary is so satisfying to land hits with. The extended range and big damage really makes it so satisfying when you're in direct hits a bunch of times. Wizard's support abilities are kinda genius. His support abilities not only happen naturally, but also buff himself, rewarding you for supporting your teammates. You hitch a ride on a zombie teammate, and by buffing them with armor and being able to see enemies through walls, you get an extra layer of defense with your teammate and co-star's health, as well as the aforementioned wall seeing. Even Z-Elixir, an ability that has potential to be used selfishly, also follows this design aspect. It's a potion that makes allies invincible and cures status effects. While it could be used selfishly on yourself, since co-star makes you and your zombie hosts at the exact same spot, you'll always be using it on both yourself and your teammate. Now let's move on from one well-designed teamwork-based character to two bad ones. I do not know how Wildflower and TV had got released this way. Oh wait, yes I do. They were rushed as hell. Their assets are reused. They're just reskins of previous existing models. Hell, they don't even get their own unique upgrades for their role. Swarm my ass. The problem with Wildflower and TV Head is that their abilities are just too skewered towards camping for them to actually feel like swarm classes. Giving both a drone and the ability to control where you respawn to classes meant to be working in groups was a really bad idea, because most of the time, people just use them for turtling and not actually working with their team. Hell, even when I use them, I don't even use them to work with my team. Not because I turtle, but because their natural kits are just better fit as attacking classes like P-Shirt and Foot Soldier, rather than teamwork-based classes like Acorn or Space Cadet. BFN's character roster does have some issues with the uneven teams and some poorly designed characters, but even with those problems, it still has my favorite roster out of the entire series. It has the most characters of the PvZ shooters, redesigns formerly annoying characters to make them less cheesy and more versatile, makes the teamwork-based classes actually feel like they fit their roles, and gives us a good amount of new characters with fun playstyles. Okay, that was a really long category with a lot of hot takes. I just hope the last category we deal with won't be as decisive. Oh no! Here it is, everyone. The end-all, be-all, final boss battle for Neighborville. Man, it's not Major Problem, or Dr. Zomboss, or King Nomus, even though he has a track in this game that was originally meant for him, even though it got cut. It's the upgrades. The mechanic that replaced the variant system in the last games, and is what most people see as the main reason as to why people don't like this game, which I do get the criticism for. In fact, I'll start off with what I don't like with the upgrades for this section, before I get to the things that I do like about them. For one, there's accessibility, specifically in regards to new players, and discovering what your enemies have with their upgrades equipped. Both the Garden Warfare games and Battle for Neighborville have their own trial and error based system of realizing what variants and upgrades that the opponents have. But the difference is, Garden Warfare games are a lot more nuanced with this. Both games require playtime and memorization to realize what every upgrade and variant does. The difference is, the upgrades in this game are a lot harder to recognize than the variants were in the last game. You see an Electro P in the Garden Warfare games, you can easily tell it's an Electro P. Not just because he's on his pogo stick, but also because of his blue aura and electrical effect. In the Battle for Neighborville, this guy can tell that I'm using Last Stitch because, oh, too late, he's dead. Upgrades in Battle for Neighborville don't provide any visual effect to tell the other players what upgrades you're using. Even the ones that do, like Super Rain's Scorched, which leaves a fire trail behind when you use Ultra Ball, only happens when you actually use the upgrade, meaning you can't actually prepare for it in advance when you see the Super Brains. The only real way you can know what upgrades your enemies are having in this game are by just dying to them and seeing what effect they have. This works better because you actually see the icons for the upgrades when you see them in the kill cam. Both of these games are based on memorization and experience to know what variants and upgrades the enemy team is having. But the difference is, the Garden Warfare games are a lot easier to do it, while Battle for Neighborville is a lot more trial and error based, as you have to forcibly see and experience the upgrades firsthand, rather than being able to immediately recognize them when you see the player using them. It's also worth noting that you unlock upgrades in a fixed way. The more you play a character, the more upgrades you gain for them as you level them up. Variants are unlocked through the sticker book system, which is completely randomized in comparison. I'm not sure how hot of a take this is, but I do prefer the system of unlocking more upgrades as you play a character more, as opposed to getting variants through just a completely random system. Of course, it's always fun to have that dopamine rush whenever you get a variant that you weren't expecting for a character you like in the last games, but Battle for Neighborville has the Rewardatron to give you random customizations and effects for that dopamine rush. I'd rather a more fixed system that actually gives new players the opportunity to develop more with the characters that they actually like, by allowing them to have more upgrades the more as they play as them. And then we get to the upgrades themselves. Specifically, the criticism that the upgrades don't provide as much gameplay differences as the variants did in the last games. I sort of get this argument, at least for early on in Battle for Neighborville. I mean, comparing the upgrades to the variants, it seems like the upgrades only have a very minor stat buff or difference otherwise, while the variants have a lot more noticeable changes. And yes, individually, variants are a lot more noticeable in their changes to the classes compared to the upgrade system in Battle for Neighborville. Keyword, individually. Slapping on just one upgrade to your character won't provide much of a difference in the long run, but when you actually put the upgrades together and theme them around a goal to accomplish, the real untapped potential for this system I think will really shine through. For as much as I and everyone else loves about the variant system in the last games, something that I don't think gets touched on much upon is that a lot of the upgrades in the Garden Warfare games are just kind of boring. The quantity of variants in these games are really appreciated, but for the most part, I don't really play them much differently from I do their stock classes. Of course, I'm not saying literally every single variant in these games plays the exact same as the stock variant, There are variants like PvZ, who change out engineer splash-based weaponry to a short-range flamethrower-like weapon that deals a lot more damage up close, in addition to a health buff, who makes him much more limited at close quarters. But there are so many variants that just provide a boring elemental change, or a very minor stat buff like Shadow Flower, which I honestly find to be the majority of the time. Most characters in the Garden Warfare games, I don't end up really picking more than 2 or 3 variants to play as whenever I pick them. Because for me, variants don't provide enough of a difference between their stock classes for me to pick more than just a select few whenever I play that class. Okay, you need an example. Let's look at All-Stars variants. Rugby Star has a slower fire rate but deals splash damage. Cricket Star has fire damage. Goalie Star has ice damage. Wrestling Star deals more damage but at the cost of slower fire rate. Baseball Star shoots faster but deals less damage. Hockey Star shoots faster again but deals less damage again. Golf Star shoots faster again, but deals less damage again. Look, can you see a problem here? The only real variants that I could see having that much of a difference from their stock playstyle would be the Goalie Star and the Middle X Star. Both of their primaries can inflict negative status effects on their targets, so I guess you could try to use them in a more supportive manner, but that's really about it. Now let's see what All-Star can do with his upgrades in Battle for Neighborville. With Star Truck, you can use a loadout that actually focuses on All-Star's defensive abilities. By having a dummy shield that instantly refreshes if plants are up close and shoves them back, you can effectively spam dummy shields to your heart's content and actually feel like a defensive class. Equip upgrades like Follow Through or Shoot the Gap, which let All-Star chain sprint tackles together and effectively make him a very fast offensive tank, using several sprint tackles in very quick succession to power through plants. Equip Applying Pressure to blind nearby plants that you shoot at, making them lose their vision, allowing All-Star to play a more supportive role by debuffing plants, which you can further extend by applying more upgrades to Football Cannon. And if Support All-Star is up your alley, you can use Injury Time to revive allies faster while they're in the dummy shield, turning All-Star into a support class. Even the alternate abilities like Long Bong or Ultra Tackle still fall into this problem of just giving very minor stat alterations that don't really end up changing their character's playstyle too much. And there's still more ways to play All-Star with more upgrades beyond what I just mentioned, like equipping tennis skills in Spin class to become a hilariously mobile frontline fighting All-Star. Like, what the hell are the plants supposed to do against this? Upgrades have 2 major things that allow them to really excel over variants and have more distinct playstyles against their stock classes. That being their customization and the differences they provide from their stock classes. Upgrades can be mixed and matched to form any possible combination that you can fit within your costs. You can mix and match your upgrades to form virtually any combination for a loadout, and it is so much fun to experiment with them for me. With the sheer variety of upgrades you have at your disposal, and the abilities that they provide, as I'll get into later, the amount of combinations you can form within this game are virtually limitless. Even when I was in the making of this video, nearly 6 years after Battle for Neighborville has come out, feel old yet, I still ended up having a few new loadouts that I actually hadn't played before, and I haven't even gotten to the legendary upgrades yet. They're fine. Shogun Guard changes Chrono Corn's primary weapons to be a slower, more powerful damaging weapon, and gives him a shield, which is fine. You can have some fun with it. Thorn Apart gives a loadout for Rose that focuses more on supporting, rewarding her for giving buffs to her teammates, reviving them, and debuffing their enemies, and in exchange, the Rose gets the ability to fire very powerful projectiles. I like this upgrade. It's probably the best of the 4 in my opinion. Steam Blaster gives scientists a close-range AoE-based weapon, with less range compared to the Goo Blaster, but dealing much more damage at the cost of less range and ammo. And then there's Radium Basher. It's just not fun to play against. The damage it provides, enough to one-shot with the majority of the plants by the way, combined with the mobility that it has, just makes it really unfun to play against. I'm not saying don't use it, just please be respectful while you do use it, and don't intentionally try to annoy people while you do. This game's community is already small enough as is, and trying to use this thing to be annoying will only make it smaller. At the very least, don't be these guys. I mean, what kind of team needs 3 Branium Bashers? Just look at this! I actually screamed when this happened to me. And there were still 2 more Super Brains who weren't using it right next to them. Oh my gosh. Okay, but ignoring that one, I do quite like the inclusion of legendary upgrades in this game. But what's ironic is, I actually find the characters without legendary upgrades to be more fun and have more variety to them, due to how much legendary upgrades actually cost. One of the best examples of that is Nightcap. Earlier I mentioned there's a certain playstyle for Nightcap that really elevated her for me, and that is Revive Cap. This loadout is genuinely the perfect combination between offense and support for a plant. Not only do you have the high mobility and damage of base Nightcap, but you can also revive allies much quicker with Incubate. Combine that with clear coating and refreshing revive, lets you revive allies extremely quickly while having armor wall in the middle of it, effectively guaranteeing your survival unless a bunch of people are ganging up on you or unless you revive them in a bad spot. And the sheer adrenaline I get by using clear coating to survive attacks I clearly shouldn't have, all to revive my teammates. Take that, All-Star. This is one of my favorite ways to play any character in these games. I've gotten 50 revives using this loadout before. It's just so much fun. But the revive loadouts don't stop here. By equipping Super Savior and a couple other upgrades, you can actually revive allies while using Arcane Enigma as Rose, effectively allowing you to revive allies while you're invincible. Although you do have a few weaknesses, mainly to Knockback and Wizard's Z Elixir, which can disable Arcane Enigma. There are a surprising amount of revive loadouts you can make for characters in this game, even ones for characters that you don't expect, like All-Star, and another character I'll get into later. I've only ever felt threatened a few times while reviving teammates, this Ultra Instinct Foot Soldier being one of the exceptions. Now I'll cover a bunch of loadouts for characters rapid fire. Equip upgrades like Head Protection and Sea Dispersal to make Wildflower a frontline class, in the same way Peach or Foot Soldier would be. You can even use your grenades to knock enemies off cliffs. If you're actually trying to work with your team, as the class intended it to be, you can equip Deep Roots to have more armor from your nearby teammates, allowing you to survive more than you would before. But my favorite loadout for the Swarm classes lets them stun enemies with their melee attacks, lets them explode on death, and gives them a speed boost when they spawn in. Combine that with their respawn station means that they can effectively be a really aggressive hyper-close range class. You can also use a drone loadout if you wanna, but that's lame. Please don't. And then there's Super Brains' loadouts. Equip Speed Back to make Super Brains effectively a JoJo's character with how fast he punches, or use Reach to increase Super Brains' rate of fire for his charge attack, effectively turning him into a ranged character. With Fallback Plan, Super Brains' Hyper Jump Thump can recharge nearly instantly. Combined with his high health, it actually makes him a pretty good reviver, effectively making Super Brains another character that can be a really good support character, combined with a powerful attacker. You can also use Brainium Basher, but I've taken a moral obligation to never use Brainium Basher. The only times I ever use it is as a joke loadout, trying to revive people with it. You can even make Engineer actually a support character by equipping Combat Aura and make your upgrades focus on helping your teammates, as the game intended it to be. As Wizard, equip Combat Aura and Two-Headed Dragon to potentially allow your coaster to last indefinitely as long as you're getting consistent kills, while also giving both your teammate and yourself a damage buff after you accumulate enough kills via Combat Aura, which also extends to nearby teammates. Apply Halitosis and upgrade Sagrada Group to effectively make Chomper of all characters a sniper. Use Chronocorn's Super Spin combined with Recarnaissance to gain both a damage buff and a rate of fire buff, massively boosting Chronocorn's DPS, while also providing your team some pretty good support, since your upgrades let you refresh Butter Beacon nearly instantly, letting you constantly reveal enemies and show their location to your team. With Cactus, you can equip Critical Blow and Sustenance to have your drone last much longer, potentially infinite as long as you're having kills, as well as having its drone strike be refueled much faster by dealing critical damage. And even if it gets destroyed, you can land critical vanquishes to increase its cooldown much quicker, letting you get right back into using your drone. On the topic of upgrades that let you last in a form that would usually be limited for massive periods of time, use Vampiric and Recharge while using Imp to effectively let your Z-Mech last for super long time. There are many more loadouts that I could talk about, but I think you get the point by now. I'd like to make a full video just going over the various playstyles you can do with the upgrades in this game. I'd really like to show the untapped potential within this system, and really showcase what it can do. Frosty the Cookie made a really cool series showcasing all the different loadouts you can use in this game. I highly recommend checking it out to see all the various kinds of loadouts you can do in this game, in case you're having trouble making loadouts of your own. I'll round this out by talking about my two mains, Pea Shooter and Foot Soldier. With Liftoff, Sticky, and Propellant, Foot Soldier can turn all of his abilities into extremely efficient killing moves, letting him deal damage with Rocket Jump, stick his Stink Bomb into plants to deal damage over time, while simultaneously blinding them, and shooting ZPGs so fast plants can't even react to them. Heck, you can even use Smelling Salts and Refreshing Revive. Placing Stink Clouds next to dead teammates will revive them much faster, effectively turning Foot Soldier into yet another damage and support class hybrid, with the ability to revive allies much quicker. If your primary is what you want to focus on, you can equip Rapid Fire and Ammo Thingamabob to have his primary deal more damage and have more ammo, turning Foot Soldier's weapon into an utter killing machine. And then we have Pea Shooter. Use Pro Spitter to spit out beam bombs much higher, and refresh them much faster with certain upgrades, letting you spam beam bombs from across the map and recharge them nearly instantly. Reload Gatling and Vampiric lets you heal damage and reload ammo while in Pea Gatling, letting you treat Pea Gatling more like it's your primary weapon than it's an ability. Use Combat Adrenaline to let Pea Soup last as long as it needs to, as long as you're dealing damage, letting Pea Soup last as long as you're dealing damage. Last Ditch makes the last Pea in your ammo deal over 90 damage in a single attack. Add on Party Time, which lets you deal more damage and move faster if getting enough kills, and stacking the two upgrades to make you do over 100 damage in a single attack. Experimenting with the upgrades in this game is some of the most amount of fun I've ever had in this franchise. The upgrades mechanic is not perfect, not in the slightest. The balancing is off, and it's not the most accessible to new players. I guess what I'm presenting here is more of a difference in mindset. I like experimenting when I play games. I like having a lot of customization, and having my own freedom to form characters however I want to play as them. I love the variants in the Garden Warfare games, but BFN's upgrades just hit close to me personally. Upgrades just changed the characters in a lot more interesting ways than variants did in the last game with me. Reviving allies quicker, making limited abilities last longer, refreshing abilities quicker, giving entirely new functions and properties to abilities that they didn't have before. The list goes on. And with all the combinations you can form with upgrades in this game, forms a system that doesn't just match Garden Warfare's variants for me, but even outright surpasses them. I highly recommend checking out upgrades and seeing what type of combinations you can form within this game. Even if you don't, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this. I had so much fun picking apart new playstyles and combinations while gathering footage to this video. And I don't think I'll stop playing this game or experimenting with this upgrade system for a long, long time. If I haven't made it clear enough already, I love this game. It's definitely not perfect. It's buggy, it's weirdly designed, borderline infuriating at times. BFN frustrates me more than any other PvZ shooter. But at the same time, I have the best moments playing the PvZ shooters while I play this game. I made this video with two possible outcomes in mind. Either as a sort of swan song for this channel as I continue to pursue other things with my creative career, or as the start of a new phase for this channel as I actually pursue to continue making videos on it, diving into more types of content besides just PvZ. Either way, I wanted this video to be a love letter to the Plants vs. Zombies franchise. Editing this video and going back on my old content and seeing all the things related to this series has been really nostalgic for me. And making this video was, honestly, one of my best experiences putting it together in artwork. Like I mentioned earlier, the Plants vs. Zombies series has always been my comfort series. And looking over Battle for Neighborville, I think I finally recognized why. Plants vs. Zombies definitely isn't niche, but it isn't super mainstream either. It sort of hits a nice middle ground between the points. Plants vs. Zombies has a lot of high points, and also a lot of low points. Whenever someone would ask me what my favorite game or game series was, I always felt a bit shy having to mention PvZ, and would usually give more, I guess, accepted answers. Way back when I was younger, I used to even draw comics over this series, even showing a few of them to my friends. The last remnants of these that I have are a few pictures that I happened to pick up. Man, I don't know what I'd give to gather all the stuff that I made for this series and looking back on it now. Super fun gameplay and infuriating game design. Being a more niche and somewhat controversial choice whenever I say it's my favorite, and having that level of personal attachment to it, sparking me to make media of my own and inspired by it, in a strange, roundabout way. Battle for Neighborville embodies what makes the Plants vs. Zombies series so special to me. And I'm not a game designer, nor am I a game expert. I mean, just look at my aim in this scene. I can't give you the best analysis and quote-unquote objective look over Battle for Neighborville and tell you if it's a really good game or not, but what I can do is ramble about the things that I like, or bitch about the things that I don't like. Either way works. Despite all of its problems and its issues, BFN's my favorite of the series. But despite that, I still feel a bit nervous talking about this game. People are inherently very negatively focused when looking at things, especially on the internet. In fact, the majority of analysis videos I watch on YouTube are primarily more on the negative. Even as I'm sitting down and editing this video, I still feel worried talking so passionately and positively about something that's been widely hated by a community that I've come to be accepted by. Despite its problems, BFN has a lot of merits to it. Merits that I wish got recognized more by the wider community. And even putting this video out, I know that's not going to stop the common consensus about this game. Literally the only content creators that I could find on YouTube who had mostly positive things to say about it are Zach Scott, the aforementioned Frosty the Cookie, and Sylvia YSA. Even though it has a lot of genuinely really good qualities through its quality of life changes, the story mode, and even the upgrade system, it'll always be in the Garden Warfare game's shadows. Battle for Neighborville's failure is what killed the Plants vs. Zombies shooters, and despite the community's endless hope for Garden Warfare 3, we all know that that's never gonna happen. And that's just really sad. But you wanna know what's sadder? Sitting around and complaining that something that you really like doesn't get the attention you think that it deserves. So what if BFN is what killed this franchise? That doesn't mean these games aren't there for us to go back to. All three of these games have their own different strengths and positives that will connect to different people in different ways. And that is an objectively awesome thing that no amount of hate anyone gives can take from you, unless you let them. I guess I want that to be the main takeaway I want from people to get with this video. I've seen so many people lose interest in series that they love for a variety of different reasons. At the end of the day, just be yourself. Even if it's the most widely hated work of art in the world, say all the praise you have for it no matter what. And don't let anyone ruin your love for something that you hold dear. If you want to play boss mode in Garden Warfare 1, go ahead. You want to spend hours grinding in Infinity Time in Garden Warfare 2? Go ahead. You really want to spend your time farming kills on new players with Brainium Basher and Battle for Neighborville? Well, go ahead. Just try to look both ways before you attack. Who knows, might end up saving your life.